Out tonight, even in the midst. It's not the prettiest day in the world, but I'm really happy you all are here for us to share our ARPA community town hall presentation with you all. Before we start, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Cal Harris. I am Chief of Staff for County Executive Dr. Sam Page. I am new to this position. I've probably been here for about a month now, but one of the things that myself, along with a lot of the folks on the team, we really wanted to make sure that in regards to spending this ARPA investment, we wanted to make sure that we did so in a very thoughtful way and that truly engaged you all. I hope to hear a lot of your ideas today and take some of your questions. But I do want to introduce the team before we move forward. From our outreach team, we have Dita and over there, and we have Ethel back. From the communications team, we have Elizabeth right here. From our, we have our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We got Kenny right here. We have Sarah from our Department of Public Health. We have Howard Hughes, our Director of Hayes, sorry. Well, he looks so good in the suit. Howard Hughes might be a little too old, but I saw the suit and that's the first thing I thought. I'm sorry, Howard Hayes. He's our Director of Department of Human Services. And our presenter tonight, you have Kyle, who is basically jack of all trades for our office. But again, I'm really excited to be here. I truly believe this is what democracy should look like. Participation, being involved, and before I go on, I have to introduce Marilyn as well, from Kelly Dunaway's office as well. So want to give you a shout out as well. But I'll go ahead and move forward, and I'll bring Kyle up to walk us through this presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Cool. We had a microphone, but it wasn't working, so I apologize. So thanks again for coming. We're going to walk you through our presentation tonight, really give you a basic understanding of what these ARPA dollars can be used for, and the goal to kind of get your minds going towards, when you're doing that survey, what items are going to be eligible expenditures under COVID based on Treasury, or under ARPA, excuse me, under Treasury guidance. So that way, when you do the survey, you've got some background and can be informed. So thanks for coming, and here we go. So we want to start off first by kind of giving you a little bit of background on previous federal COVID relief funds that were given to St. Louis County by the federal government. So since the beginning of the pandemic, we received two big packages. The first in 2020, commonly known as the CARES Act, and then last year in 2021, ARPA. While CARES Act funding was emergency response funding, ARPA funding should be viewed more as funding to be applied towards the economic recovery after the pandemic. And really what this just boils down to is that there is a broader set of eligible uses for ARPA funds, and there's a longer time to spend those funds. We must obligate the ARPA funds by the end of 2024, and those funds need to be executed by the end of 2026. As these are recovery funds, there are complex and stringent requirements that the county must adhere to in order to execute those funds in a compliant manner with those Treasury guidelines. So to start off, we're going to talk to you what we did with the CARES program. To give you some background, like I said, St. Louis County has demonstrated a track record of distributing federal funds in an equitable, efficient, and impactful manner throughout the course of this pandemic. In 2020, St. Louis County launched St. Louis County CARES, where we were provided $173 million in federal CARES Act funds from the federal government to cover necessary expenses that were incurred due to the public health emergency. We needed to act quickly to respond to the emergency of the COVID-19 pandemic, with those funds originally being required to have been spent by the end of 2020. That was later extended to the end of 2021, but that just gives you kind of an idea of sort of the immediacy of those funds that we received and how we had to get those funds out into the community very quickly. Our three key priorities when spending those CARES funds were: one, to save lives, to help residents meet basic needs, and to revive the local economy. So as I mentioned earlier, we received a little bit over $173 million, and it was allocated into these five broad categories. 49 million was put into the health category with the intent of decreasing the rate and extent of COVID-19 spread by increasing community awareness, enforcing social distancing requirements, and ensuring the equitable availability of testing and prevention measures. $30.6 million was put to the humanitarian relief category, which really just meant things like covering the basic needs of county residents through things like food support, housing, safety, health support, and addressing vulnerable populations such as children, seniors, the disabled, and the unhoused. $26.3 million was put towards economic recovery, which was used to invest in strategies that could revive the county's economy, including things like lifting economic restrictions, helping non-essential businesses reopen, and helping restaurants return to dine-in services, and pushing the local economy forward. $47 million was used to provide financial assistance to local municipalities throughout St. Louis County for the costs that they took on as a result of COVID-19 so that they could be reimbursed. And then $20.5 million was used towards county employee and constituent safety, which really just means upgrading county operations to protect the health and safety of St. Louis County government employees and the constituents who come that we serve. Throughout all of the programs that were funded through the CARES Act, St. Louis County was sure to have a commitment to equity so that every program was intentionally designed to meet individuals where they were, being sure to steer those resources to the communities who needed them most. The next slides that I'm going to go through, we're going to show three different programs that were funded through those CARES Act dollars. And just a little shout out, this lovely smiling lady, she was one of the senior citizens who received one of our Grand Pads, which was a program funded through the CARES Act program. These Grand Pads were just tablets that allowed seniors to remain connected throughout the course of the pandemic, and they were distributed right here at these county libraries, well, all of the county libraries, not just this one. So the first program I wanted to show to y'all is the Child Care Relief Program. St. Louis County contracted with United for Children and Child Care Aware of Missouri to provide technical assistance, training, and access to technology and other resources to child care facilities throughout the region. And you can see we have that broken down both visually throughout the county and then based on each council district where those sites were approved and then how much money was given to each council district for a total of $1.8 million in that program where we helped out 122 different sites. The next program I wanted to show you was our Digital Equity Initiative, which was the program that distributed 9,828 hotspots and 6,085 Chromebooks to school districts throughout St. Louis County. We worked with our St. Louis County libraries to distribute those Chromebooks and hotspots to school districts. And those resources allowed those districts to implement virtual learning when some of those districts may not have had those resources prior to the pandemic. And this photo here is of Levon Singleton, who is the CFO of Riverview Garden School District. And you can see his smiling face under that mask. There he is at one of our library distribution events. So just wanted to make sure we had that shout out. The final program I wanted to showcase that was funded through CARES funding was the Small Business Relief Fund. This was announced in May of 2020 and provided over $19 million in grants of up to $15,000 each to 1,663 small businesses. And those funds could be used to pay for costs of business interruption, that came as a result of the stay-at-home order and to cover costs associated with reopening safely. And again, that's broken down based on council district, and you can see a little over $19 million was spent. So I wanted to show you a couple of those programs that we funded through CARES to show you kind of the background that St. Louis County has in effectively distributing federal funds, but then also to maybe get your mind going to the sorts of programs that are applicable when we're using federal funds with CARES. And then now I'm going to walk you through Arpa, how we can spend those dollars. So the American Rescue Plan, or Arpa, is a $1.9 trillion economic stimulus bill that was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Biden on March 11th, 2021. Through this Arpa Act, $350 billion was allocated of that $1.9 trillion to local governments such as St. Louis County to help local governments respond to the impact of COVID-19. The goal of this federal legislation is to provide additional relief addressing the continued impact of COVID-19 on the areas of the economy, public health, state and local governments, individuals, and businesses. So the funding objectives of Arpa are to support urgent COVID-19 response efforts, to continue to decrease spread of the virus and bring the pandemic under control. Also to replace public sector revenue, to strengthen support for vital public services and help retain jobs, to support immediate economic stabilizations for households and businesses, and to address systemic public health and economic challenges that have contributed to the unequal impact of the pandemic. So in the next couple slides, we're going to go through the specific ARPA eligible expenditure categories that are required from the US Treasury. There are 6 different categories that I'm going to go through, but what I want to tell you all before we get to them is anything that does not fall into the approved eligible expenditure categories that I'm going to go over is not eligible for ARPA money. There are very strict rules on how we can allocate those funds. So we definitely want to make sure you all have a good understanding of what those rules are before we ask you to fill out that survey. So as I mentioned, these are the broad 6 different eligible expenditure categories provided to us by the US Treasury. So those are supporting public health response, replacing public sector revenue loss, water and sewer infrastructure, addressing negative economic impacts, premium pay for essential workers, and broadband infrastructure. And in these next slides, we're going to go into detail on each one of those. So the first ARPA eligible spending category is supporting public health response. So this includes services to contain and mitigate the spread of COVID-19, including vaccination, medical supplies, testing, contact tracing, quarantine costs, capacity enhancements, and many other related public health activities. It also includes behavioral healthcare services, including mental health or substance misuse treatment, crisis intervention, and other related services. And then payroll and covered benefits for public health, healthcare services, human services, and public safety staff to the extent that they are working on COVID-19 response. Funds second eligible expenditure category is replacing public sector revenue loss. This ensures the continuity of vital government services by filling budget shortfalls that were as a result of the pandemic. Revenue loss is calculated by looking at previous year's revenue and then comparing that to the decrease in revenue that was experienced as a result of the pandemic, and then adjusting for what that expected growth would have been if not for the pandemic. And then the last point just speaks to the fact that since we have until 2024 to allocate those funds, we can recalculate the revenue loss at multiple different times over the next couple of years because our revenues may bounce back, our revenues may decline. It just, we have the ability to change and be adaptable as we move forward. The third eligible ARPA expenditure category is water and sewer infrastructure. This includes improvements to infrastructure such as building or upgrading facilities, transmission, distribution, and storage system. And eligible uses are aligned to EPA project categories for things such as the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. The fourth ARPA eligible expenditure category is addressing negative economic impacts. It's a broad category, but what that really just means is delivering assistance to workers and families, which includes support for unemployed workers, aid to households, and survivors' benefits for families of COVID-19 victims, support to small businesses through loans, grants, in-kind assistance, and counseling programs. It can be used to speed the recovery of impacted industries, such as tourism, travel, and the hospitality sectors, and to rebuild public sector capacity, which is done through rehiring staff, replenishing state unemployment insurance funds, and implementing economic relief programs. Just go a little bit more in detail on negative economic impacts. Education and childcare also falls into that category, and funds from Arpa can be used for things like after-school care, daycare programs, and childcare financial assistance. Fifth of six, so here we go. Fifth category, premium pay for essential workers. Premium pay can be provided to workers either directly or indirectly through grants to third-party employers. The priority for the premium pay is for low and moderate income workers, which is defined as workers who face the greatest disparity between employment-related health risks and the compensation that they receive. So some key sectors that would be included would be healthcare, grocery and food services, education, childcare, sanitation, and transit workers. And our sixth and final eligible spending category is broadband infrastructure. The focus for this is on households and businesses, either that don't have access to broadband in the first place, or where the connection is so slow that it isn't defined by the minimally acceptable upload and download speeds. We also can fund projects that deliver that reliable service with those minimum download and upload speeds. And then also the programs that can be funded through our Arpa dollars can complement other broadband investments made through the Capital Project Fund. And what that just means is Arpa is $1.9 trillion. The local program is $350 billion. There are other parts of Arpa that aren't in the local part of what we receive that are doing broadband infrastructure. Our programs can complement those bigger programs as a result of Arpa. One last thing to note, Treasury does allow for additional flexibility for different communities that were hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, which presents the opportunity for us to address health disparities, invest in housing, address educational disparities, and promote healthy childhood environments for our children in those particularly impacted communities. So those are our expenditure categories. How much did we get? We got $193,112,666. We received that on July 17th, 2021. And since then, the county has worked to appropriate those funds to programs with an equitable impact following the guidelines that I just read. You might wonder why we got that much. It's just based on our population, based on the other counties across the country. So that's how we were determined that much. So to date, as of right now, St. Louis County has allocated $107.8 million in the following approved expenditure categories. $5 million has been allocated to the Department of Human Services to fund the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which provides assistance with eviction prevention for households in St. Louis County. $5.7 million was put towards premium pay. $5.1 million of that was allocated to the Justice Services Department to provide premium pay increases to corrections workers in our St. Louis County Justice Centers. And $624,000 was allocated to the three departments, Transportation and Public Works, Revenue, and Administration, to provide those eligible employees premium pay increases to those eligible employees. $11.9 million has been allocated to public health to fund the vaccine gift card incentive program, staffing, testing, vaccine supplies, and other eligible COVID-19 response-related expenses. $1 million was allocated towards the administrative costs of these ARPA dollars for legal and compliance expenditures. And then lastly, $84.2 million has been put aside for revenue replacement to account for the decreased revenue to the county as a result of the pandemic. The purpose towards allocating those funds towards revenue replacement was to ensure the continuity of vital government services by filling budget shortfalls we experienced as a result of the pandemic. St. Louis County Department of Performance Management and Budget calculated our revenue loss relative to previous years, and adjusted based on the growth rate that is established by the US Treasury. Had we not allocated a portion of those funds towards revenue replacement, St. Louis County would have risked either increasing revenue, potentially through tax increases, or reducing costs by diminishing services that our county residents rely on every single day. Some of those services, including the maintenance and construction of county roads and infrastructure, running our system of county parks and programming, running health services through our Department of Public Health, public safety costs, including police and justice services, funding for human services, including employment, housing, programs for the youth, elderly, disabled, and our veterans, as well as other things like planning, zoning, building codes, building permits. And that's just a small sample of those services that St. Louis County provides that were able to be continued because we allocated those funds to fill our budget shortfall as a result of the pandemic. The last point to hammer home on that revenue replacement, this chart here is from the, you can see at the bottom, Brookings National League of Cities and National Federation of Counties. And it shows a breakdown from 41 cities and 104 counties on how they allocated their ARPA dollars in the different expenditure categories. As you can see, cities across the country, cities and counties across the country have had to use a substantial portion of their ARPA dollars to replace lost revenue. And some governments, including Long Beach, San Francisco, San Diego, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, have decided to use their 100% of their ARPA allocation for revenue replacement. So we're in good company utilizing the portion that we received of those ARPA dollars towards revenue replacement. We're almost done, guys. Open data. So St. Louis County is committed to spending these funds in a transparent manner, allowing for public disclosure and input at every step of the process. This is just a screenshot of our dashboard, but for ARPA, for CARES, and for every dollar that is spent by St. Louis County government, we run what's called open data. It's on our website, on our homepage at the top. You can go online at stlouiscountymode.gov, click on that tab, and see up-to-date information on how many dollars are being spent, where they're being allocated, and particularly for ARPA, you can see that we have our different expenditure categories and then how much remained to be spent. We can't fit it all on this page, but if you scroll down, for example, you click on vaccine incentive program, you can get in so much detail that you can see we spent this much dollars at this store to buy these gift cards on this day. I mean, you can get down a lot of rabbit holes on this. And while we're really proud of this for ARPA, this is true for all of county spending. So you can find, you can find my paycheck if you want to. Public engagement. So as a result of this ARPA outreach program, we've hosted a total of 7 public town halls throughout March of 2022. This is our last one, to engage with and hear from the community on what their priorities are on how to spend these federal funds. Also, for the purposes of gathering that information, we launched our ARPA Community Needs Survey at the end of February 2022 online, and we also have a paper version of our survey. And we are proud to announce that as of this morning, we've received over 2,600 surveys. So we got 3 more days to bring those numbers up. And then if you want to take a picture of this slide, if you haven't taken the survey already, this QR code will take you to our survey. If you want to post it on your Instagram, if it fits in your, aesthetic, that's great. But the purpose of this survey is to hear directly from residents on how the county should consider spending the portion of the funds to respond to community needs. It's important to note, every response on the survey is voluntary, it's confidential, and you can leave any questions blank that you do not wish to answer. It's also available in multiple languages, is mobile friendly, and can be accessed via a screen reader for those with visual impairments. Just a quick snapshot. This is as of 21st, which is Monday, of where we received the surveys from so far. I believe we're in District 2 right now. I don't know if we're in 63146, but that's a pretty good zip code. But you can see that we're collecting these from all across the county. And if you're competitive, you might want to bring your numbers up if you see your zip code in a lighter shade of blue, green, or whatever color we call that. So I'm going to quickly show you what the survey looks like, if it'll allow me. Maybe it won't. This is why you practice. There we go. Sorry about that, y'all. So this is what the survey looks like if you haven't taken it already. We got a brief intro up here, a list of our town halls, but you're our last one, so thanks for being here. We start off the survey by showing what those eligible expenditure categories are and giving a brief definition so that you can be informed if you didn't attend one of our town halls, but you guys did the extra credit. First question just asks you to rank what your priorities are from 1 to 8 of those different categories of spending. And then as you go down into each category, you can see specific ideas that you can say you want to see funded with these ARPA dollars. And you can select as many or as few as you'd like for each category. But each one of these checkboxes here correspond with a program that does follow Treasury guidance and would be able and eligible to be funded through ARPA dollars. So we have public health, negative economic impacts, mental health, household assistance, education and childcare, infrastructure, government services, older adults. And for each one of those, there are ARPA eligible expenditures, and you can select as many or as few as you'd like. We also have an other option if you want to make a suggestion that you're not seeing there, you're free to do that. We also have a free response section for each category where you can provide suggestions for each of those categories that I listed above. Again, every single question is voluntary. You can answer as few or as many as you'd like. And then the last section, those same rules apply. We ask for demographic information, but it is completely voluntary. And then once you're completed, you submit that survey, and then you ask 3 friends to do it too. So go back. We've only got 3 more slides, guys. Except that's. Survey closes March 25th. The information collected from this survey, again, will be used to assist the county in making decisions on how that federal funding best reflects the views of those who take it. And with that, we will now take your questions. So if you've had a question card, hold it up. We'll have collected, and then we will ask those who are going to be on our panel to come sit. We'll answer your questions. So thanks, y'all. Amy and Dickie, are you there? Yes. Cool. Oh, that's really quiet. I'm going to turn that up.
Okay.
And we can come back.
First round here.
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Well, if you think of anything and you want to, just we'll get through what the written ones we have. But again, my name is Elizabeth. I'm on the communications team for County Executive Sam Page. I am going to ask again, the panel is just going to kind of go through, introduce themselves so you know who they are. And I don't know if we want to start here and go down or.
Al Harris, I'm Chief of Staff. Howard Hayes, I'm the service.
I'm Kyle Clem, I am from the county.
And we do have our friends from Deloitte who they will come kind of like the voice of God on a speaker because they are on a WebEx, but they help us navigate what does fall under US Treasury guidelines, okay? Because there are specific rules. So bear with me as I try to read some of this handwriting. While it's lovely, sometimes it's small. So this one says, I'm a healthcare worker. Sorry. Support healthcare workers. I can't read this. Whose card is this? Can somebody just, yeah, sorry. If you want to stand and just sort of ask your question, I apologize. I just.
pandemic. The nursing homes, the home cares, will we all receive any help with training?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So DPH's previous engagement with nursing homes came in the form of our high-risk task force, which connected our staff and other public health-minded folks to nursing homes throughout the county who are in need of PPE guidance, right? How to put it on, how to take it off, infection control protocols, and in the early days, testing before testing got really more accessible as time passed. Currently, we don't have any exact plans for this. However, I think we've been in conversations about potential opportunities to support testing, right? We all know that the pandemic uniquely impacted nursing homes and healthcare workers across all sectors. And so I think we've had some initial conversations about training. I think the state's been involved in that as well. And so we're looking into it. Thank you.
Right, thank you all for listening to my question.
Make sure you put that on your survey too.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, and I have two that are sort of similar, so I know which row it might have come from. But this is again asking if St. Louis County could create maybe an RFP like KC Rebuilds, which would apply for funding for healthcare workers training fund to address. Yeah, go right ahead.
Meet that whole systemic through the training that we're talking about. So it would really, the other thing that I mentioned is that additional flexibility for those who are the hardest hit, our healthcare workers in the, born in SEIU healthcare have been the hardest hit. We've had folks in our union die. We've had folks in our union COVID, had it twice, we've had long COVID, every variation. So an additional flexibility would be. So it looks like we meet a couple of different. So we had developed this training that we think is going to be really helpful as we respond to the variants, because the variants are still out there, right? And so making sure that the infection control is really beefed up within nursing homes is just absolutely essential. So I just wanted to mention it. It seems like it meets a bunch of the characteristics that you guys identified.
Okay, so you revealed it's a really unique program.
We just applied yesterday, so we're hopeful over there. But we, got this dream that we could educate. Like there's literally thousands of healthcare workers.
Fill out your survey. Make sure you clearly put that in there. Also, get more people to fill out the survey and say the same thing. We're gonna look at some of the numbers calculated. A lot of people saying this is a good idea. And it fits into those eligible uses. That's the big story. We can get all that together, then definitely look at that.
Did set it out for our entire membership. We're open. Sticky made a bunch of phone calls yesterday. So we're open. Hear from us.
That's excellent. I'll put in a plug too, because I'm the person who oversees social media, and I know maybe more people are adept at it than others, but it is on the county's social media. You can take a picture of this and you could text it to a friend. You any way that you communicate, this is able for, you can share that information. So, and I can help you do anything after we're all wrapped up if you need help too. So don't hesitate. What are they doing with North County / city streets and safety? Is that, I think North County, right? Is it, sorry, was somebody? Okay, so we're looking for what transportation projects could fall eligible under these funds. Well, is this your question? So what are you at looking for specifics? What specifically are you?
I'm ducking and dodging to get to Littleton. My job, torn up, tired, calling them calm. And I don't know what they put down in December, it made it worse. And when I say holes, I don't mean just holes. I'm talking craters, literally craters, where you make it to work or you may not. And a lot of these vacant buildings that can be done. If the banks foreclosed on them, have the banks responsible to fix them back up. Like when the boarding is down, the bank should be able to put it back up. So for safety consideration, the schools that are empty, they could be turned like they are being turned into not upscale all the time, but decent housing for people so they're affordable living. They can turn those empty schools into something. Not only that for the vets. My dad is a vet and literally dying in the hospital, not from COVID. He had surgery, got an infection. I can't even get a nursing home to take my dad for staff, for the fact that he needs dialysis, all because of this COVID thing. This COVID thing has really affected us in a lot of major ways. And I have to make a decision on, do I fix my car? Do I fix my mother's basement because the sewage is coming up in my mother's basement, the rain, all about that, they try to keep putting it back on us, or do I go to work, or, the buses are being cut up. Everything in North County, and see, I didn't know about this meeting. I just happened to catch it this morning. I probably missed the one that they had over there, and things like this really need to get out. I don't know how you need to do it. It's got to be better than this because we got all this money sitting here. What are we doing with it? What are we doing with it? We are a Midwest city. That means we got other cities. People come through our city to get to where they got to go. Atlanta's not the only one that's being talked about on TV. If you look at movies, people talk about Missouri. They show the arch all the time. We need to represent better, way better. What we're doing. That money needs to be put, a focus group needs to be, maybe even an outside focus group, outside of that, and see what's going on. Because when I go to other cities, their streets don't look like our streets. They don't have a lot of paper tags running around, on cars, stolen cars. Because we don't have enough safety. Or we're not getting paid enough money. So people feel it's better to stay home, or take a different job. We all should get paid the right amount of money for what we need to do, and our city needs to be just better. We could do better. That money is not being put in North County City. I'm telling you that right now because I'm born and raised West Side, North Side. And I remember when we was on the West Side, we used to break our neck to get into North County to see our friends. Nobody wants to be over there now. Nothing's being done over there. I've never seen so many vacant buildings in my life, and I moved, came back and saw this. And before I moved, I used to go to all these meetings, cities, and speak up and talk. But what are y'all doing with the money? What money? What money? Because everybody I call for stuff to be done, they don't have it. Their hands are tied. So where is the money? Where is it?
So,
So
a couple of things. It's the question about can funds from Arpa be used on transportation, things like roads, potholes, etc. The eligible expenditure categories that I showed earlier focus on infrastructure is really on water and sewer. However, one category, revenue replacement loss. Roads, bridges, the upkeep of them, if it's a county maintained road, that is the responsibility of the county. So 270, no. Your neighborhood street, no. But county maintained roads, yes. So funds that were allocated towards revenue replacement, which goes to regular government services, those funds can, yes, be used on roads, infrastructure, that sort of thing. You have to remember those funds were being used to supplement the loss of revenue received as a result of the pandemic. So just to use round numbers, let's say the county made $80 million in a year. It's not right. You got $72 million in the revenue. We use that $8 million to so we don't have extra money to put towards it. Just brought us back up to the revenue that we had prior to the pandemic. If there are roads that you see issues on, we have to let us know about that. We have 311. We have our Department of Transportation and Public Works. You can submit on the phone, on our website, writing, tell us where the potholes are. Finally past the freeze, we can start refilling the potholes. Winter, it's really hard to do cold patches, they just come right back up. After this, if you want to get with anyone on this panel, we can give information specifically so you can those road issues are happening. Get those taken care of. On the second day,
That's not working. So I said, even announced it on TV, and I called and I emailed. And you know what they said? It's the city. That's not a county problem. You see where I'm going with this?
well, so I will say the city, if it's a city of less than, cities also receive government dollars. So we have county money, county services, so that's unincorporated St. Louis County or county roads. Every city, they also receive money, whether it's from the state or the federal government. But you also mentioned having properties. So I talked about eligible expenditure categories. That last category, where we talked about additional flexibility for hard to hit communities. If there's a community disadvantaged and had health impacts as a result of COVID, there is more flexibility in how we use these funds in those communities, but it has to follow those guidelines as set. So the answer to, can we use these funds on rehabs? Yes, in some areas, specifically in or harder hit. Neighborhood improvements, as long as those promote health and safety of the residents, that's what these funds get used towards. So, whole goal, all of our funds, is to respond better to the pandemic than we were before, both on COVID-19 related things, also greater public health. You have a lot of questions, but I hope specific.
There's one thing I'd like to add. First of all, I just kind of like to take a step back and thank you for being very honest and talking about a lot of really personal things. And I will definitely be praying for your father. But you know, to your point about there being a focus group, you all are the focus group right now. You know, I'll be honest, there's not a lot of, you know, local governments, you know, in the region that are trying to hold town halls and trying to do, you know, surveys, being very transparent about, you know, one, how we've, you know, tried to spend CARES money to quite honestly save lives. I mean, when we got that tranche of CARES money, it was literally in the middle of the pandemic when, you know, hospitalizations were up, you know, folks were getting sick and folks were dying, and we really had to act fast. Now that we're sort of on the horizon of, you know, COVID-19 and we can see a light at the end of the tunnel, we have a real opportunity to not just put a Band-Aid on situations, to think very transformative. You know, like, how can we be smart, use this investment to truly, you know, change the plight of a community and truly, you know, improve, you know, the lives of countless families, which is why we're taking this process very serious. I know, you know, just right here in District 2, Kelly Dunaway has been a really big champion of just really thinking of transformative ways to really use these funds. And I can tell you, just in North County, I'm not sure where you stay, but you know, between you know, Rita Herd Days and Shalonda Webb, they are two very tough cookies. We've had quite a few town halls, and other sort of events out that way too, sort of, hearing from folks just like you about concerns that you've mentioned. So, my thing is, we do hear you. And we are looking to do something really transformative with these funds, which is why we take getting responses back from folks like you extremely important.
What was your name again, ma'am?
It's Renee Wright,
Right?
WRIGHT.
Okay. Ms. Wright, there are a lot of things going on right now. We want to focus on having your feedback for these ARPA funds. But the president passed an infrastructure, signed off into law, an infrastructure package in November. Secretary Buttigieg is going to give $2.9 billion in grants for infrastructure through states and cities. But I'm a veteran. And so your father's situation is personal to me. One of the divisions in my department advocates for veterans. I'd like for you to take the card after this meeting. Let's call and we talk a little more. These meetings are great, but often a little one-on-one is better. So be happy, Ms. Wright.
Thank you.
Great. So this question is, where does the state's ARPA responsibility lie?
I will give a short version, then we might have Deloitte fill in. So $350 billion of the 1.9 trillion was put towards, it's called state and local federal response dollars, SLFRF. Yeah. So of that $350 billion, it's divided amongst states, what are called metropolitan cities, and those are cities over 50,000, counties, and then smaller cities. And those smaller cities get their funds from the state's allocation, and the state can allocate funds directly from their own allocation. So I don't know if that's that's probably as much detail as I could give, but I don't know if you want to pose that to Deloitte and see if they have any more detail to provide.
Hello, Deloitte friends. We have a question about the state's responsibility when it comes to ARPA. So if you can answer that.
So the state's responsibility, they also have an allocation that they get to decide how to spend. And they are bound by the same rules, right? So like they are programming it, they're responsible to consider equity. They will have the state of Missouri will be posting information on their site so that citizens can track how they're allocating our dollars and they're making their decisions within the same parameters as St. Louis. But we are not working with them, so we cannot speak specifically to how they are planning to deploy them.
Yes.
Answer whoever asked that question.
Yeah, that was me. Because I just knew that they had all kinds of surplus money. They were trying to figure out where to give it to, and I didn't know if we got any of that. And so what you're telling me now is just the small towns get the money from the state, that we don't get anything from the
And
state.
it isn't a result of the fact that the state has extra funds, just the way that the law was built. Towns under 50,000, they receive their allocation from the state versus bigger cities got it directly.
Didn't the state supply the school?
There is a different bucket, I believe, for school districts too. So if anybody is thinking of asking questions about, K through 12s, there is a separate piece of the American Rescue Plan Act for that.
And then I would just add that, as Kyle noted in the presentation earlier, the states and local governments have until the end of 2024 to determine how they want to spend the money. And so there are different states that are thinking and looking at it with a longer term lens and also saving some of that for what might be unanticipated in the next year or so.
It admittedly can get a little confusing. I hear about different money coming from feds here and there, but I suggest everybody grab one of these little overviews, look at the eligible uses and the uses, and as you fill out your survey, make sure your story fits in, or your idea fits into the LGBT way. Realize, this you want to see our performance, because one thing we're here talking about tonight is executive funds, touching or talking about how other money may or may not come into it.
And I hate to add further to that, but Miss Wright, I did want to look up for you, because you mentioned West Florissant. And the federal government did award St. Louis County $18.2 million to improve a 1.5 mile stretch of that road. So that is also coming for that area. So again, I just wanted, but that is separate from this. So again, there's lots of different pots all over the place. So right. Sure, sure. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get us off track, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was also a piece of it. So, okay. Here we go. So was the survey sent out to residents in different communities? So can we touch on how this survey is being put out into the community?
So, a lot of it has been various ways. A lot through honestly the media, a lot through social media as well. We had leaned on a lot of the council members as well to help sort of discuss at various town halls, at various sort of community events, sort of by the breakdown of numbers you see from the various districts. I know we've got a pretty strong sort of response from District 2 as well as District 1 and 4 as well. We've been talking to I know Vita has had a few conversations with various community-based organizations and just whoever is willing to listen. I will say, where are we at right now?
I wanted to put 27. I think we're at 2689.
2689. Yeah, which honestly is not that bad. I mean, obviously we'd love for there to be like thousands more, but for this to be a pretty thorough survey, we've been trying to share it far and wide to get as many responses as possible.
Would it be costly or too much trouble to send like something like this as a survey to the residents' home so they can have it in order to, take a picture with their phone in order to do it? Because a lot of the elected officials are not transparent, and they're not holding themselves accountable when they're supposed to let their residents know. I'm the one that asked the question. I'm Teresa Hester, and I'm actually running for alderwoman in Ward 1 of Bellfound Neighbors.
Okay.
And this is, I think it was only because I'm running for alderwoman is where I've heard about the survey. Otherwise, I wouldn't have knew anything about the survey. So I'm a little taken back by the fact that I have had no idea about the survey to give input, because you want the residents to give input on what we should do with this money and how it should be spent, but you're not going to get a response if they're not aware, right? So that's why I asked the question. If this is sent to the House, then I'm a reader. So I'm gonna pick up a piece of mail, either I'm gonna toss it, I'm gonna keep it. If it's something important and it has to do with money coming into my community, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna spend the time in order to, participate and say where I believe this money should go or not, or whatever, I just,
No.
it's an idea. Now it's about to close on the 25th. So, and people are not gonna get an opportunity to participate in this.
No, it's received major coverage. All the radio stations. Sure, channel 4, 5, and 2. We're in a social media generation, and throughout social media. We've had two, I believe, virtual town hall meetings. So,
And I completely understand that, but knocking doors, I was actually talking to residents about the survey and to see if they knew about it. I'm like, a survey? I'm like, yeah, a survey to say where we can, how we can use these funds. And they're like, what? I don't know anything about a survey. And some of the residents are not, they're older folks.
Your mayor was actually at our very first town hall. Your mayor, Bill Noor, was actually at our very.
Bell Fountain. She's from, right, you said that.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was at our first town hall.
I think it would, just for future reference, I think something like this.
so here with a large family. So
Well, that's why I said costly.
Yeah, so the thing was, and again, with the funds we have left, we had to sort of teeter a line between, do we sort of spend X amount of dollars to send this, to print it out, since all million residents in the county, which could have been costly.
Definitely important.
Yeah.
But once the survey closes, there is nothing keeping you from reaching out to your council member, to the county executive, and letting us also know what your ideas are, right? If you talk to somebody, you can contact us. There is nothing preventing that. And I would also say contacting your council members.
we know we could spend. But we did want you, all your faithful, all your friends, family, here to take the survey. So we do ask for your help.
Glad you said that, because had I known earlier on knocking doors, I would have told everybody knock the door. Look, you need to take this survey, because there's some money that could be coming into Bell Fountain. Take that survey. It takes all of us in order to get the job done. And then one lady, I did knock her door. I been asking for where's the survey? What's the survey? Because the other people they did say that there is a survey, so that I can send it to her so she can take it. And I'll be sending it to her before I.
Well, and there is another question, which it does look like it is from your card still, that I think flows really nicely of how will we share the results of the survey, right? And so, who would like to speak to that?
So the fun thing about the survey, after we get this feedback from you all, we're gonna go through the feedback and we're going to use what you all tell us to present. Well, first of all, we'll share the results publicly, but we're also going to present a series of recommendations to the council as far as ways we think this money should be spent. Now, it's not like Dr. Sam Page is sitting with this, sort of big check. The money is with the council. And what's really kind of fun about this whole exercise here is the fact that, you have sort of, county executive and, members of the council sort of working together to sort of hear from their residents, their constituents about ways in which they'd like to invest these funds. So our hope is that, by the time we get this feedback, by the time we present a set of recommendations, we can sort of present it to the council and basically in good faith saying that, this is some of the same feedback that we got from your folks, that we got from other districts, and, here's what they want. So hopefully it'll be a, kind of a, expeditious process. But yeah, we should be sharing recommendations, hopefully after we calculate all the feedback from surveys.
Okay. Next question I have, and this might be for Deloitte, but I'm just gonna read it. And if cities have already received their ARPA funds, can cities still request additional funds from this allocation?
Our allocation is the county allocation, city, like I said, that either received, either received it directly from the federal government if they are over 50,000 population, or they received it directly from the state's allocation if under 50,000. We can ask Deloitte this. I don't know if we can share with municipalities, but that would be something that you would need to suggest to us in the survey, but you would ask that specific question.
Yeah, so the question is if part of this 80+ billion could go out to cities and municipalities, right?
So funds, St. Louis County Fiscal Recovery Funds. St. Louis County is a recipient, but St. Louis County as a recipient can also transfer these funds for services to be implemented or undertaken by subrecipients, be it nonprofit entities, municipalities, qualifying subrecipients. So that's the short answer, but I'd also like to echo what Kyle said with regards to the allocations that have already been made. No further funds can be requested, but that's how funds could be transferred from the recipient county to a subrecipient entity.
My question, I didn't understand.
So basically, the cities, your question was, can the cities receive more money?
Well, yeah, our city has already received our first part of our, we received that from the state. We're under 50,000. So now since you guys got the 83 million, can our city come back and ask, can apply, or maybe we want to use money for the water and sewer infrastructure? And can we do that?
So to echo what Vicky from Deloitte said, yes, we as the recipient you would be an eligible subrecipient being a municipal. But that would be a decision, again, that we would ask for your feedback on the survey, and the county council would need to make the decision to allocate some of our funding to go towards a municipality. And if we, as long as it's eligible subrecipient, which your city would be, then it's.
But what about if a group of cities, collaborate, together and came up with a certain project?
Assuming that the project falls under the eligible spending categories. So water and sewer infrastructure.
So this is one-time funding. So whatever the funding that you're going to get, you got to be able to sustain.
Exactly. That's why things like payroll. So you can't tell someone you're gonna have a job until sustain this. That's what I mean. Some of the projects are be able to be sustained either beyond that or you feel like a project.
Okay, so last question. Okay, now I don't want to see this set up on the shelf, because a lot of surveys and all these different, you do all this work and you don't hear back from them. It might be December when we hear back from you guys. I hope that ain't the case. Just looking at the, say you got about 2,700 surveys, that should give you guys some pretty good ideas on what the county is saying all over. When do you think you might have an answer for the residents that's doing the work that you were asking? I hope it ain't a long time from now.
Definitely in December.
Yeah.
But no, again, we do want to, I don't know if I can give a definite time, but we want to sort of expedite. I mean, there's communities that are hurting, and I don't think it would behoove us or behoove communities, to kind of sit on it. That's definitely not the goal. But we do hope to present some recommendations like pretty soon after we get these results.
And this next question kind of flows into that, and I don't mean to put Marilyn on the spot, but How will the citizens be assured that the money won't sit idle waiting for a decision to be made? And while a decision is being made, that the money isn't slowly and quickly disappears on what is later called administrative costs. No salaries or Deloitte should be paid with this money that is slated to help citizens of St. Louis County.
All the council members are on board.
I'll also, yes.
And with that being said, so with the surveys that you have received, does number of surveys come from a variety of locations? Does it come from this one location where the citizens have been informed properly and all of their citizens are chiming in, should we spend on? See that? I think, well, I see the outline. Just saying something for me. Don't leave it, please. And areas where they just don't understand this whole process. I just ask personally, do not leave any area of St. Louis County out. That's all I ever ask, is that you take care of the citizens that, I don't know if they're elected officials, if sworn to do, and that is what I ever want. Being retired, I get to watch the news a lot. And I get to see that everybody said they will do. Lip service is one thing, but action is even better. So if you're not gonna do it, get up and walk out the door. Say, I can't be honest to what I swore that I would. For me, oaths mean something. And if you can't do it, don't lie.
So,
And I apologize if it seemed a little.
oh, no, this is good, and I will harness that same energy, and I will say, I truly believe that, democracy is not you shouldn't be sitting on the sidelines, so just as much as we play a role in sort of, democracy, you all play a role too, and I think, being here, you all are playing a role in making sure that we fill out these applications. You all are filling a role. So I can assure you that, we're doing what we can to make sure that, these surveys are being sort of shared in a very equitable way. And I can also tell you in regards to, you got Councilwoman Shalonda Webb. I know she actually did have a couple of people going door to door, and particularly in like Castle Point and Wellston and a few other areas. So I know she has had a lot of good turnout on kind of surveys in her district as well. And, council members are doing a lot of really kind of unique stuff to get the word out, but, I also want to just tell you all too, after you fill out the survey, like your job ain't done, I want you all to continue holding us accountable. I'm excited to get the feedback that you all give us and think about how, thoughtful and innovative we can be as far as providing some real recommendations to the council on how to, adhere to, the information that you all give us, so yeah, there'll be more hearings, and we'd love for you to come and sort of participate. And, as we roll out these recommendations, continue to hold us accountable, hold the council accountable too, until it gets done.
I was on the phone today with Deloitte with the meeting, and the breakdown is fairly accurate. I mean, District 4, which is Councilwoman Webb, is on top. I mean, they've got the most responses, but we're getting feedback from all districts according to the slide I saw today at my meeting.
That's updated as of Monday, so just to be aware, there's more since then, but that's.
Yeah, we had the town hall earlier this week too.
So just, okay, I'm clear on it. So just take, for instance, the light green. So that means that, okay, you got 10 to 25 surveys.
That's also, we should be clear that not every person, because every question is not hearing. There's a portion of those surveys where people don't put things in. There's actually more than if you add up all of those numbers. I think something like 75 out of 3/4 of people do put their zip code. Fluctuates, but some people just don't. But of the ones who actually put their zip code, that's what they're. Well, what the paper, there's a place on the paper one.
Those are all the submitted questions I have, so sorry.
So if someone takes the survey.
So, we are able to tell surveys have been submitted from the same device. What we don't is allow that for outreach workers that go out into the community for like these computers back here. We do allow it for those sorts of devices. If they don't want them, this would be useless.
Well, I just asked the question. So can I go back?
We did our best. We did our best. So, the definitions at the top of the survey. That's the
Do you have like a kid in your life you could represent them as a?
With the same browser and taking it. At that point, but you won't be able to read this. First of all, first responders. All of those folks are the ones that do. But I'd like to put it to. They do it used to be. It's just a small portion of the population. I have a small band. All his guys work day jobs, so it wasn't much money for them. But now they've disbanded. Much of that's being lost. Our young folks in the city, they've got a great music. That's notable here. I didn't know about the survey. Nobody said this was about a survey. I thought I'm going to be able to address folks in the council related to the council. That's what I'm. So I've done that. I appreciate you listening to me. Hope we can get something done for those people. You're right, sir. At one of our town halls, the director of Coca was there. She laid out the multi-million-dollar contribution arts and entertainment tribute for hurting. One thing I'd like to point out, make sure you find somebody that's going to know about it. The county council's too busy. Campaign is too busy. Dr. DeFish, up to, beginning of the week, Bill Edwards, talk to the folks in KDHX radio.
Yeah.
It's gotta be up KDHX radio. We can all agree that they're pretty much. The radio station itself.
So to your point, when the Treasury wrote these guidelines, obviously they intended the funds to go to public health, safety workers, but they specifically call out travel, hospitality, and tourism sectors as being disproportionately impacted, and funds are allowed to go to exactly as you described. So that's eligible use. If you have not taken the survey yet, you do. Not on your survey because it is important that you're going to listen. It's been impacted in some way, but Treasury itself to it to let me put it in the.
We do also have options in the back. The laptops are up that you can take the survey here. So you don't have to go farther than the library. And they are a great partner. And I just want to make sure we reiterate that the library is the best. So, sorry. Yes.
And I wanted to put my dog in the fight. So I just want you all to understand that first, I'm a healthcare worker in St. Louis County. I've been in the healthcare industry for over 15 years. And I just want you all to understand that when COVID hit, it was a major impact on healthcare workers. And a lot of it was because we just didn't know, we just didn't understand. We didn't understand how to utilize PPE. We didn't understand how to properly clean the residents' rooms. A lot of times we didn't understand that a COVID resident can be in the same room, but a non-COVID resident had to learn it. You know, and all of that could have been prevented with proper training. And I just feel that if we were prepared and if we were educated, then it would have prevented a lot of fatalities. And I just want you all to really think about that and bring that to, you know, and take that to heart, because even how Ms. Wright spoke about the short staffing, because we did not know, a lot of people ran. And respectfully, I understand a lot of people don't want to bring that into their homes. A lot of people are scared because we did not know. But it's important for us to prepare for healthcare crises like this, you know, because failing to prepare is ultimately preparing for failure. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's very important. Yeah. I'm the son of a healthcare worker. My father was an OBGYN. I've known Dr. Page, county executive, for a long time. He prioritized healthcare workers, hospital workers, stands. Looks like to be on the front line.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife is. So the truth is, we do have great compassion for healthcare workers and what we've been through this hard time. And we will keep them in the forefront of our mind about how we can help out. Let's pay it forward.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Many of us have parents and grandparents in your care. Please fill out those surveys, because what we do know is that in crisis, you did not walk away.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we've got 3. So here we'll start on this side.
We are with a not-for-profit organization in St. Louis called KidSmart. And so really excited to hear that someone was here representing KOGA as well. And so my question is, first of all, is there a plan to work with some of the not-for-profit organizations? I think that's a great area to start. We serve kids in St. Louis County in 10 school districts, tens of thousands of kids, and we have immediate access to 4,000 educators in 4,000 local classrooms. So we're going to be sending the survey out. I don't know that they'll reply, but hopefully you'll hear from some of them. But your teachers are, you know, they're one source. You have immediate access to what's going on in the kids' lives in our community and what's going on in families' lives, and also what's going on in education. And so if you don't have a plan to work with some of the not-for-profit leaders, it might be a good idea to just pull from some of the different industries, healthcare, education, the arts, just to say, hey, give us an idea of what's going on, how has COVID affected the populations you're serving, because a lot of us are serving large populations throughout the county. And the other thing I would say is some of our funders. So Victor Lazzaretti holds a seat on our board of directors, but he's also deputy legal counsel for Emerson, who's a big corporate partner with KidSmart. And Ferguson Florissant, you know, they're a big funder specifically for the students in that area with KidSmart. And so we're able to leverage their gift to the organization and give them a 15-time ROI. So $1.5 million in not only free school supplies and educational resources, but also we were boots on the ground. We never closed down. And so we went on the front lines with the educators, and we distributed tractor trailers of hand sanitizer and face masks and cleaning supplies and wipes and things like that directly into the classrooms to the districts. But that's another thing, is to look at the funders and say, okay, who are those game changing organizations in town, whether you select KidSmart or not. Obviously, we'd love for you to let us have a seat at the table. In the area of education, but a lot of those private foundations and those corporate foundations could identify pretty quickly. Here's a select hand of some of the directors of some of the organizations, where have them, you know, have a seat with them, and hey, who's moving the needle? What are the needs? What are you hearing, to get a pulse on the community needs? And I'm not here about roads, but I do want to say, I think that the access to equity and access to jobs. I mean, I don't worry about the roads I drive on every single day to get to my job, but I can only imagine that would greatly impact the equity to my access to my job if I had to worry about that every day. So I just want to say, like, as I was listening to that equity and inclusion, I think roads do play into that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do-
I'd love to hear if you're planning on
So
talking to some leadership.
the thing that I'll say is, take the survey, because allowing for grants to nonprofits is something that, depending on how the program is exactly designed, be determined by the county council. Treasury guidelines, but generally, grants funds to nonprofits is something that's eligible. It's smart, right? It's smart for CODA or for groups to. Generally, that's. So, answer your question.
Yeah, and what really are you planning on working with or talking to any of those not-for-profit leaders, or even the flip side of that, some of those foundation and some of the corporate foundations and private foundations, because they can identify pretty quickly for you some of the not-for-profit leadership who maybe should have a seat at the table to say, hey, because we've got a pulse on kids in 4,000 classrooms, it's 75,000 kids like that, you know, with the teachers and even administrators in those different districts, which we'd love to share that information with you. And we can communicate with them and they get back to us. So, because we're giving free stuff away. So,
You do homework, but obviously we take the feedback that we can. But you go to the next slide. If there's something that you can't fit into the survey, if you want to submit something like a bigger proposal or something like that, these are all of our names, obviously, but we have built this email, which we don't really show at the end, but Arpa Town Hall questions, you can submit a question, or if you have something that doesn't fit your survey, if you submit it to that, that information will be shared, obviously, with the executive's office, and then also will be a component of the survey and the recommendations that go to the county council. When I'm Marilyn here, she's representing the council tonight, because ultimately it's the county council's responsibility to draft the legislation and pass it. The executive branch's responsibility to pass.
Do you all do crafts with conviction with any justice services in the county?
yes, we do.
You know, they have this Google thing.
So yeah, we do, and I'm happy to talk to you about that offline. But we 12 of the correctional centers, Missouri Department of Corrections, so we have offenders who donate between $500,000 and $8,000 hours every single year, and they make educational resources that are just lacking in these classrooms. So they'll do flashcards, learning games, math manipulatives, bookshelves. I mean, just they're basically a manufacturing company. These guys donate their time and their labor every single year, and they send billions of resources back that we distribute directly into classrooms.
Nice.
So it's called Press Conviction. You're correct. Yeah, happy to talk to you about it offline. It's a cool program. And a lot of the guys will say, do you serve this school, this district? Because that's where I come from. And if I can help, keep one kid from ending up where I am, it's worth me donating my time and my labor. It's through the restorative justice program, if you're familiar with that Department of Corrections.
No, I'm giving my card.
Yeah. Let's touch
Yeah.
it.
Thing with, it's more, actually for probably over the last organizations collecting, school supplies, things like that.
Thank you.
Now, as our chief of staff, here's reports from all of us, and one of them that I've given superintendent talking about the needs, and one of that small piece of it was for rental assistance. And we found that a lot of those homes, your kids in them, hard, as I've said already, to structure the house right now. But yeah, the organization, 1,000 kids, you got kids in it.
Thank you for your support. And I will, one more plug for the educators, because they are an important partner with the organization, just in the whole supply chain and boots on the ground, and they volunteer. When we went on the front lines with most of the districts and built out emergency supply kits, family kits, and so as they were handing out food and the technology, we were handing those out too, and the teachers were alongside us, which was great, because it removes the stigma, right? And say, hi, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, and they knew all the kids, and so it was a really cool thing. But then they would also drive through our facility and show their ID through the front window. We had 8 volunteers at a time, like 50 miles apart from each other, but loading the trunks up with about $1,000 each worth of free school supplies. And the teachers would take those and break them down and take them and put them on the front porches of the students center, homeless shelters where they knew that their kids. It was amazing. So thank you for that. And you're right. It's really cool. And we're really good at boots on the ground and mission. What we're not good is telling people about what we do. So thank you for the opportunity. We'd love to be able to have a further conversation. I'm sorry. No, but it's a community-wide collaboration, and there's so many people, whether it's corporate partners or elected officials or volunteers and the teachers, educators. And so really it is something where we're definitely going to spread the word to as many teachers as we can. We can probably reach 4,000 of them tomorrow. I don't know how many will turn the survey, but we're going to try and put a little pressure just so you guys have some results too. And put them all over.
For this gentleman, we're working with the leadership of the 24-1 municipal partnerships. They have our survey, and we're working with them in terms of receiving their counsel. And that's 24.
Chris Kramer.
Mr. Hayes, I'm very familiar with what you're stating. Also, we met with Ismore the other day. One of your representatives was at our meeting. I'm with 24-1 as well.
Okay.
And they're going to school district.
Yeah. We guess we do. What's Normandy's one of those things, right?
And that is Chris.
Yeah. He does a good job.
That's what I mentioned about, the environment of cities working together, to see if we can get some of these dollars. One of the things that I wanted to ask you work with the council, right?
I work for Kelly Dunaway.
Okay, so you're familiar with all 7 councils, members. Now, out of this $80 million, would it be split equally among the 7? Would they fight over, well, you got 30 million going to North County and only such and such going, but they look at it that way?
That remains to be seen.
Oh, it's going to be a fight, I know.
I hope not. I hope there's a sense of collaboration. I can't collaborate to fit the needs for each of their districts, but it's to be seen.
Well, you got some districts that don't really need it.
Well, and I know District 4 and District 6 has the biggest unincorporated districts of all the council areas. So they don't have cities. They have all unincorporated St. Michael's County. So I think there's some pushback for those 2 districts because they don't have the city.
So the unincorporated areas, can you explain that? Are they not getting the funds?
They're eligible to receive funds. It's all of the departments.
I think that the point would be more like, so like in unincorporated St. Louis County, from your Privet Street, your subdivision street up into, your Lindbergh is a county maintained road. You live in Brentwood, your neighborhood streets maintained by Brentwood. Sure, I should pay my Brentwood. It's the county services. Your services.
You know what I'm saying, like they.
So unincorporated areas, they are only being served by the ARPA funds received by St. Louis County. Because if you live.
Florissant.
Any municipality.
Florissant.
your cities get- All of their money.
It's a responsibility. You don't have a local seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one is impacting businesses. Some impacted. When I look at some criteria, for small businesses, how does that really outlay? What is that? What are the potential for businesses? Because some businesses did start because of COVID. So, and with all of those in mind, as mentioned, how does it now outlay these funds as it's appropriate to businesses too?
So I would point you to, in front of the sheet right here, where it says workforce, it's a premium pay for essential workers and job training. That's probably the most concentrated area because those are eligible areas where you get money for. So if you have an idea along those lines, make sure you write it with those type of words, those keywords, and to make sure you tell that story, how it fits in with eligible use. And that ups your probability of being looked at.
And whether that's through grants or loans or counseling services, small business support is something that can be provided. Much like we mentioned it.
I zoomed in on the email address because it's like the longest email address ever, and I just wanted to make sure you saw it.
Much like. Small business. Oh, you're good. During the CARES funding. Oh, yeah, we don't have right here, 1,600 businesses.
Okay.
Got grants of $15,000. Using those CARES funds, so. Restrictions and requirements are different between CARES and Arpa, but that particular category, small business loans for grant programs is an eligible. Thanks for the question.
Now, ma'am, you had your hand up earlier. Do you still have a question?
Healthcare, because I have a variety of friends who work in home healthcare, and my son gets home healthcare. They were really hit hard too, and I don't know if it's just, they need to be sort of included in training or whatever too, because they've had a really hard time, when they have to go to 5 houses in one day. They're just taking germs from one to the other as well, and they really could use some help. So I just wanted to figure out, I think I mentioned it in my survey, but I just wanted to make sure that home health care people, whether they work for an agency or could just sign up if they have that job, they could use some help too.
With the funds going out to different, communities and at work, will there be a third party that disperse those funds, or will it go to those workers or outside of the different structure, public health in terms of people that's working? And the reason I say third parties, for example, we have Schnucks at work, right? So the workers that work in Schnucks, are we counting on the Schnucks company to disperse those funds to the workers for the work that they've done, because they are on the front line too? They are like the healthcare providers. They didn't go home, stay at home. They worked every day like they did. So they are. So I'm just asking the question: How will those funds? How will they get those funds?
So are you referring to like the pay increases for like the workers that was like over the slide that where it talked about healthcare workers, road street workers?
Yeah,
So
I might have missed that or
no, it's It's a short answer is yes. So it can be government employees. So like, health services, DPW. Yes, but also that particular expenditure category, we can, as a subrecipient, give to a subrecipient, checks or whatever, as long as it's eligible employee, we can give that money. Decision that the council need to make.
Well, I ask you to consider if that's the case, maybe in the proposal, a certain way that they have to do it, or they can't like leave money on the table, or like what someone said, like, well, we had to cover this, and so we had to put this money over here, so that's why we couldn't give it to the workers, you know, to make sure that they're not pocketing some of that money. They should not be. They, because Schnucks of the world and Dibbers of the world, they have plenty of money. The workers, you know, not so much. So just throwing that out there. You know,
Seems like a great thing to email.
Sorry, I was just trying to go back and forth. In person and me saying it directly to you. But I will absolutely email, put that in the email as well.
Employees. Premium pay is a. Like, you could not give a raise to like a CPA. Right, Walmart. Because they would not be on. So the state gets Arba allocations from the federal government. It's not our money. The state got its own money, and they can put that money towards state workers if they choose to.
We have to go and feel like that, and we're like we're dealing with retail for 11 years, but they both got on that. And now with the state, I've got to see, and I've got all my shops available because I have elderly. I was going back and forth from the hospital. I see a couple of times. I couldn't see my dad for 30 days. You know, because of me dealing with the public. And our safety, I'm very upset about that. Now the world back up and again, you know.
So state workers would be eligible as long as they're doing in-person work. That's basically
They sit at my desk in front of me.
Then yeah, they'd be eligible, but the state would be responsible to use their money for state employees. The county can give money to county employees or eligible third parties as long as they have employees who are eligible. So like a grocery store worker, healthcare worker, sanitation, transit, any sort of in-person work would give as a grant to the third. But a state's employees would have to be paid for by the state.
If you want help navigating with the state, you might want to talk to your states.
Any other questions?
Behavior health. You know, that's an eligible. Could that be used like in the collaboration of cities, you know, because mental health is serious, you know, especially in the Black community. It's terrible. Serious. You know, all this, you know, just gun violence and just craziness. A lot of it to me just, you know, I'm thinking it's mental health, you know, mental health. And I see that something that it could be funded. How would we go about municipalities in North County trying to put something together like that, you know, to maybe that could score pretty good in front of the county council, you know, mental health situation.
Should only county council. Mental health and substance abuse is an eligible category. So that's there for you too. And it is important. Even the National Medical Association, they said things like gun violence and mental health issue. So I think there is, you have a good thing to write. So you have to make that story. You have to kind of plan it out and then give it to your county council person.
And to tag on to that from the Department of Public Health standpoint, we do offer some mental health services, but we know we're not meeting the need. And we are working on updating our opioid action plan and continuing our work in the substance use arena, really. But we rely on a lot of other providers who are able to reach more patients than we are. And so, as you're thinking through that collaboration, I would recommend, identifying existing providers who want to go in on that with you. So then that way we know it's medically sound and it's guided by best practices. DPH, we've used a little bit of Arpa funds for addressing substance use, so we'll be purchasing additional Narcan, and we'll be hiring additional clinicians to help our patients, our existing patients that are through primary care clinics. But we know that there's more to be done, especially after the, at this point in the pandemic, people are starting to pick back up their primary care and their mental health care, but delayed care is going to have a lot of negative impacts. And the pandemic has created more chronic conditions or worsened chronic conditions. And so we know we have a lot of work to do. So I would recommend looking into other providers who can go in with you on that as well. We've got some existing asks for the council for.
You need to write a proposal.
I don't. That's not a bad idea, right? Like the one pager that someone can take a look at and understand. Here's the dollar amount, and here's how it's going to work. I think that could be a really effective mechanism, but also your story is a really effective tool as well, talking about why it's important to you. So that's my 2 cents.
And to send it to all council members, not just the person that represents where you live. Send it to everyone. That way they'll all have it in front of them.
And I like to add to that too, like continue to have the conversation about mental health, because in the Black community, we tend to think that's a sign of weakness when it's not. When we're going through different things in our lives and we push it off as oh, that's not an issue really, we just need to work through it when it's actually something, So us having the conversation and continue to have the conversation, that it is a thing and it is real and it needs to be addressed. And there need to be programs in place and different organizations that we need to partner with. That's what we need to do. And it is very important. Yeah, so I'm going to continue to have those conversations with this.
Well, they just, they want to change the names of this stuff all the time. Mental health, then you got behavioral health, which one do you use?
All of them, anxiety, depression, all of those things.
Which one would get the votes? Wouldn't just be mental illness. Which one?
Show the link, because all of it needs the resource efficiency to handle the problem. But when there's a lack of resource, it don't matter what pot and color you are, still getting a piece of the overall objective because it's getting subjugated. So let's move it over. Just tie it all up.
Yeah, they got key words, like this brother just spoke up, if you doing a resume, if you gonna put that key word in there, the tracking system is not going to, it's going to overlook that resume. So, so it's kind of stuff going on. You've been very helpful. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you all, and on behalf of everybody else sitting up here, for what I think has been a great conversation. Really, and I hope that you have taken a picture of this already and you have emailed it and texted it and I don't know, carrier mail, whatever you can do with it to get more people to take this. Because a lot of us here, this is our hometown, right? This is where we're from, and this is a very, very transformational opportunity that we have with these funds. And this has been a beautiful conversation tonight. Can I hang up on this? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.